There is a place where time moves differently, where the hours blur into days and the days into seasons without anyone caring to count them. High on a mountain that has no name on any map, beneath a sky that shifts between day and night in its own gentle rhythm, a dragon sleeps. The dragon has been sleeping for a very long time, perhaps centuries, perhaps longer. No one alive remembers when the dragon first closed its great amber eyes and settled into the stone hollow at the mountain's peak, its silver-green scales catching the last light of an ancient sunset. No one remembers the sound of its voice or the beat of its wings. There is only the sleeping and the garden that grew from its dreams. For the dragon dreams still, deep, slow dreams that ripple through its consciousness like stones dropping into still water. And as it dreams, its breath, warm and soft and touched with old magic, flows out across the mountaintop. And where that breath touches, things grow. Not wildly, not quickly, but with the patient inevitability of starlight. A gardener tends this place, not to wake the dragon, never that, but to witness. To walk quietly among the dream-touched flowers and the crystal formations that grow from dragon breath. To observe the way magic moves through a garden when no one is hurrying, when there is nothing to do but be present, and watch and tend with the lightest of touches. This is the story of one cycle of dreaming, if it can be called a cycle when time means so little. The story of what grows in a sleeping dragon's garden, and what it means to tend a place where the boundary between dream and waking is as thin as morning mist. The gardener arrives as the light changes, though whether it is dawn or dusk is impossible to say, and perhaps it doesn't matter. The sky holds that quality of soft luminescence that could be either a gentle glow that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows. The path up the mountain is not difficult. It was never meant to be. Smooth stones, worn by countless footsteps over countless visits. Wind between ancient pines that grow at angles no pine should grow. Their roots gripping the mountainside. Their branches reaching not quite toward the sky but toward something else. Something the gardener has never quite been able to name. The air grows warmer as the path climbs higher, which is the opposite of what should happen on a mountain. But this is the dragon's warmth, the steady heat of its sleeping body radiating out through stone and soil, keeping the peak temperate even when snow falls on the slopes below. Steam rises occasionally from cracks in the rocks. Not hot enough to burn, just warm breath condensing in the cooler air, adding to the ever-present mist that drifts through the garden. The gardener carries very little. A small cloth bag with a few tools. Shears that are rarely used, a trowel, a brush with soft bristles. A flask of water, though the garden provides its own water in abundance. Mostly the gardener brings presence, attention, the willingness to move slowly and observe. The garden gate is not really a gate. It is simply the place where the pine forest ends and the garden begins, marked by two standing stones that might be natural, might be placed, might have grown there the way crystals grow, from some slow geological dreaming. The gardener passes between them, and the quality of the air changes, becomes thicker somehow, more present, charged with the subtle electricity of magic that is happening, always happening, never stopping. The dragon lies in the center of the garden, in a hollow of smooth stone that fits its body perfectly. Perhaps the dragon carved this hollow over years of settling in, the slow pressure of its massive form gradually shaping the rock. Perhaps the stone shaped itself to hold the dragon, the way water shapes itself to its container, responding to some deeper law of accommodation and rest. Perhaps the hollow was always here, waiting, and the dragon simply found it and recognized it as home. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the dragon is here, has been here, will be here, its great body rising and falling with breaths so slow that minutes pass between the inhale and the exhale. The dragon is beautiful in the way that ancient things are beautiful, not with the brightness of youth but with the luster of age, of patience, of time made visible. Its scales are the color of tarnished silver green, like old copper with patina, like the surface of a pond when sunlight filters through leaves above. Each scale is the size of the gardener's hand, overlapping in patterns that please the eye without announcing themselves. The patterns are not regular, not like the geometric precision of manufactured things, but they follow a deeper logic, an organic symmetry that emerges from growth rather than design. The scales themselves are works of art, each one unique. Some are smooth and unmarked, catching light in simple reflections. Others carry the fine tracery of what might be ancient scratches, or might be deliberate markings, patterns that look almost like writing in a language no one remembers. Still others have inclusions, tiny crystals embedded in the scale's surface, or metallic veins running through them, or spots of different color that might be age spots or might be intentional decoration from when the dragon was young, whenever that was. The dragon's wings are folded against its sides, the membranes so thin that light passes through them, showing the delicate architecture of bone and vein beneath. The wings are enormous even folded. When spread, the gardener imagines, they would span the entire garden, would cast shade over everything. But folded, they tuck neatly against the dragon's flanks, the wing joints tucked close, the membranes draped like silk or like the petals of some vast flower. The membranes are translucent and colored with subtle gradations, darker green near the bones, lighter toward the edges, with occasional patches of gold or amber where the light catches them just right. Looking at them is like looking at stained glass windows, the way light transforms when it passes through colored transparency, creating pools of colored illumination on the stones below. The dragon's head rests on its forearms, its long neck curved in a posture of such complete relaxation that simply looking at it makes the gardener feel more at ease. The neck is thick and muscular, or was muscular perhaps in some distant past when the dragon flew and hunted. Now the muscles have settled into softness, into the comfortable mass of one who no longer needs to move, who has found the perfect position and need never leave it. The head itself is magnificent, longer than the gardener is tall, shaped like a wedge, with a snout that tapers gradually from the broad base at the skull to a rounded tip. The nostrils are large, each one big enough that the gardener could put a fist inside, though the gardener would never do such a thing, would never disturb the dragon's rest with such intrusion. The dragon's face, if a dragon's face can be said to have expressions, holds a quality of deep peace. Not the peace of nothing happening, but the peace of being exactly where one should be, doing exactly what one should be doing with no doubt, no questioning, no restlessness. The dragon's features are relaxed, the ridges above the eyes smooth rather than furrowed, the jaw slack, the lips, if dragons have lips, slightly parted to allow the slow passage of breath. The great amber eyes are closed, the lids smooth and seamless, scaled like the rest of the dragon but with smaller, finer scales that fit together more delicately. The gardener has never seen these eyes open, has never heard anyone speak of them being open. The dragon sleeps, and that is the nature of things, and perhaps the eyes will never open again, and that's all right. Perhaps the dragon has seen everything worth seeing, has done everything worth doing, and now rests in the perfect completion of a life fully lived. Or perhaps the dragon will wake someday, open those amber eyes, and the garden will transform in ways the gardener cannot imagine. Perhaps, but that day is not today, nor tomorrow, nor any day the gardener can foresee. Today, the dragon sleeps, and the garden grows from its dreaming breath, and that is enough. The gardener stands for a long moment, simply watching the dragon breathe. This is always the first task. Not a task at all, really, but a ritual, a necessary grounding. To arrive, to observe, to let the rhythm of the dragon's breathing slow one's own heartbeat, to let time settle into its proper pace, which is no pace at all. The dragon's breath is a marvel in itself. It emerges as visible mist, warm, slightly luminous, carrying colors that shift too subtly to name. Pearl white at the base, hint of gold threading through it, whisper of green like new leaves, touch of violet like twilight. The colors don't stay separate but blend and separate again in the flowing mist, creating combinations that have no names because they exist nowhere else but here. The mist flows from the dragon's nostrils with each slow exhale, emerges in two streams that twist around each other, interweaving like dancers, like water braiding in a stream. The streams flow across the garden, following currents of air that the gardener cannot feel but can see in the mist's movement. Sometimes the streams stay separate for many meters before dissipating. Sometimes they merge immediately into a single flow. Sometimes they spiral around each other, creating a helix of mist and magic that drifts across the flowers and crystals before dissolving into invisibility. And where the breath touches, things happen. This is the fundamental magic of the garden, the engine that drives everything. The dragon dreams, and the dreaming shapes the breath, and the breath shapes the garden, translating invisible inner landscape into visible outer form. The garden is not large, perhaps 100 paces across, circular, bounded by the natural curve of the mountain peak. But within that circle exists a density of life and magic that makes it seem vast, as though the space itself were larger on the inside than the outside, as though one could wander here for hours and still find new corners, new surprises, new details that had escaped previous notice. Flowers grow in clusters and alone, following no pattern the gardener has ever been able to discern. Some are recognizable or almost recognizable, like memories of flowers from the world below but not quite right, as though seen through water or remembered from a dream. A rose, but with petals that chime softly when wind passes through them, each petal edged with what looks like crystal, creating a delicate music that's barely audible, more felt than heard. Something like lavender, but with stems of translucent glass that catch light and throw tiny rainbows onto the stones below. The glass so perfect and clear it looks like frozen water, like ice that never melts. A tree grows near the western edge. If directions mean anything in a circular garden, that might be a cherry tree but isn't quite. It blooms continuously, never shedding its flowers, the blossoms slowly fading from pure white through cream to pale gold to deep amber to a final stage where they seem to be made of solidified sunlight. At this final stage, they don't fall but dissolve, breaking apart into motes of light that drift upward like reverse rain, floating up toward the sky until they become indistinguishable from the ambient glow that permeates the garden. The gardener has watched this process many times, has sat beneath the tree and observed a single blossom through its entire cycle from bud to light. Takes time, days, perhaps, in ordinary reckoning, though time doesn't reckon ordinarily here. The blossom opens white, perfect, with 5 petals arranged in simple elegance. Over time that feels both swift and glacial, the white deepens to cream, a warm color like old paper or antique lace. The cream darkens further to gold, rich and buttery, the color of late afternoon sunlight. At the amber stage, the blossom begins to glow with its own light, soft at first, then stronger until it's clearly luminous, a tiny lantern hanging among the tree's dark branches. This glow intensifies over more time, and the amber deepens, becomes more saturated, more intense, until the blossom seems to be carved from amber itself, glowing from within. Then comes the dissolution. The petals don't wilt or brown or curl. They simply begin to break apart at a molecular level, fragmenting into points of light that are too small to see individually, but create a golden mist around the blossom. The mist drifts upward, pulled by some gentle force, and the blossom slowly disappears, leaving only the empty calyx on its stem, which itself soon fades and is replaced by a new bud, beginning the cycle again. The tree is always in all stages at once. New buds forming, white blossoms opening, golden flowers glowing, amber blossoms dissolving into light. Standing beneath it creates the impression of being inside a slow firework, surrounded by gentle transformations, by beauty in constant flux yet also somehow constant, always the same even as it's always changing. Other plants in the garden are entirely of this place, with no cousins in the world below, no reference in the gardener's memory of ordinary botany. A low-growing moss covers large patches of ground, soft and dense like carpet, colored in the deepest blue-green the gardener has ever seen, the color of ocean depths, of twilight sky just after sunset, of sapphires in shadow. This moss glows faintly when the dragon exhales nearby, responding to the dragon breath with a soft luminescence that pulses gently, creating waves of light that ripple across the moss carpet like breezes across grass. The gardener sometimes lies on this moss, feels its softness beneath, watches the glow pulse in rhythm with the dragon's breathing. The moss is cool to the touch but not cold, and it smells of earth and water and something else, something that might be the scent of deep time, of patience made tangible. A vine grows here too, climbing the standing stones and occasionally reaching out to climb the air itself, its tendrils finding purchase on nothing visible, creating arabesques and spirals in 3 dimensions. The vine's leaves are shaped like crescents, like slivers of moon, each one perfectly formed, and each leaf holds a single drop of water at its center. The drops never fall, never evaporate, just sit there perfect and round as pearls, catching light, refracting it into tiny rainbows. The gardener has tried to understand these drops. Are they dew? Condensation from the dragon's breath? Something the plant produces itself? But understanding eludes, and perhaps understanding isn't the point. The drops simply are mysterious and beautiful, one more impossibility in a garden of impossibilities. A cluster of what might be mushrooms grows in a perfect spiral around a smooth stone, but they don't quite feel like mushrooms. They're pale gray, almost white, with surfaces that seem to shift between solid and gaseous, as though they exist in some state between matter and mist. Touching them produces a strange sensation. Not quite solid, not quite ephemeral, but something in between. They're cool and slightly damp, and they smell of fog and distant rain. These fog mushrooms grow very slowly, adding perhaps one new fruiting body to the spiral every several visits, maintaining their perfect mathematical curve. The spiral follows the Fibonacci sequence. The gardener counted once long ago and found the numbers matched. But whether this is intentional or just the natural mathematics that underlies all growth, no one can say. And everywhere, growing from the soil, emerging from cracks in the rock, clustering around the bases of plants, are the crystals. They are perhaps the garden's most characteristic feature, more numerous even than the flowers, present in every corner, in every zone. They grow the way the dragon's breath makes them grow, slowly, peacefully, adding layer upon layer of mineral and magic, building structure atom by atom, molecule by molecule, according to laws of geometry and chemistry that are subtly different here than they are in the world below. Some crystals are small as seeds, barely visible sparkles in the soil, tiny points of light that might be quartz or diamond or something that exists nowhere else. Others are large as the gardener's fist or larger, some as big as the gardener's head, multifaceted geometric forms that seem to contain entire landscapes within them, tiny worlds of color and light, miniature universes that shift and change when viewed from different angles. The crystals are not one type but many, not one color but all colors. Clear ones that are perfectly transparent, that seem to be made of solidified air or frozen light. Blue ones in every shade from palest sky to deep midnight, some so saturated they're almost purple. Green ones like moss and forest, like jade and emerald and the heart of leaves. Violet ones like twilight and shadow, like the space between stars. And occasionally, more rarely, other colors, rose pink, pale gold, deep amber, smoky gray. Each crystal formation has its own character, its own presence. Some grow in tight clusters, many crystals radiating from a central point, creating spherical bouquets of mineral. Others grow singly, one perfect crystal rising from the soil like a monument. Some form in flat plates, creating faceted surfaces that catch and throw light in geometric patterns. Others grow in columns, hexagonal prisms reaching upward, their faces perfectly parallel, their edges sharp and clean. The way light interacts with the crystals is endlessly fascinating. Sunlight, or whatever the source of illumination is in this place, strikes a crystal face and is refracted, bent at angles determined by the crystal's internal structure, by the precise arrangement of atoms within. The light separates into colors, creates tiny rainbows on nearby surfaces. Multiple crystals create complex light patterns, rainbows overlapping with rainbows, color mixing with color in ways that create shades that don't exist in ordinary spectra. At certain times, when the dragon's breath shifts, when the ambient light changes in its slow cycles, the crystals all seem to glow at once, each one lit from within, creating a field of gentle lights like stars scattered across the ground. Walking through the garden during these times is like walking through a constellation brought down to earth. Light above and light below, the boundary between ground and sky dissolving in luminescence. The gardener knows from long experience that the crystals reflect the dragon's dreams. Not literally. There are no images in them, no scenes to decipher, no symbolic landscapes to interpret. But their colors shift with the dreams. Their growth patterns change. New formations appear in response to whatever vast, slow narratives are unfolding in the dragon's sleeping mind. When the dragon dreams water dreams, the crystals tend toward blue and clear, growing in forms that suggest flow and fluidity despite being solid mineral. When the dragon dreams earth dreams, browns and greens appear, and the crystals grow in denser, more compact forms. Fire dreams bring amber and rose and deep red, and the crystals glow with internal warmth. Air dreams create the clearest, most transparent crystals, formations so pure they're almost invisible, detectable only by the way they bend light. Today, if today is the right word, if days are discrete units here rather than a continuous flow, the crystals near the dragon's head are predominantly blue, a soft azure that reminds the gardener of sky reflected in still water, of clear shallow seas, of ice lit from within. This suggests the dragon is dreaming something peaceful, something open, something vast and cool and gentle. Water dreams, perhaps, sky dreams, ocean dreams. The gardener has learned to read these signs the way sailors read weather, not with certainty but with gentle probability, with intuition based on long observation. The gardener begins to walk the garden's perimeter, slowly, observing. This is the real work. Not pruning or planting or harvesting, though sometimes those things happen. The real work is attention, seeing what has changed since the last visit, noticing which plants seem to be thriving, which crystals have grown, where new shoots have emerged. The garden doesn't need management so much as it needs witness. It needs someone to see it, to notice it, to acknowledge the slow unfolding of its magic. Near the eastern edge, if edges and directions have meaning in a circular garden on a mountaintop outside of time, a new cluster of flowers has appeared. They weren't here before. The gardener is certain of this, has walked this path hundreds of times, knows every stone. These flowers are new, born from the most recent dreams. They are small, delicate things, growing low to the ground in a tight cluster. 5 flowers, each with 7 petals, each petal a gradient from deep violet at the base to palest lavender at the tip. The flowers emit a very faint glow, barely perceptible, and a scent so subtle the gardener has to kneel close to detect it. Something like honey, something like starlight if starlight had a scent, something indefinable. The gardener kneels there, simply observing. The flowers are perfect. They need nothing. But the gardener pulls out the soft brush, gently brushes away a few grains of soil that have scattered onto the lowest petals. Not because it matters, really, but because the gesture feels right. A small act of care, an acknowledgement. The dragon's breath drifts past, carrying that shifting luminescence, and the new flowers seem to brighten slightly in response, their glow intensifying for just a moment before settling back to their previous state. The gardener watches this, notes it, files it away in the mental catalog of observations that may someday form a pattern, or may not, and that's all right too. Time passes. The gardener moves to the next area of interest, a section where a type of grass grows that isn't quite grass. The blades are too perfectly even, too geometrically precise, growing in spirals rather than clusters. The grass chimes when the gardener walks through it, a sound like very distant bells, almost below the threshold of hearing. The dragon breathes. Inhale, slow and deep, pulling air across the garden. The grass bends slightly toward the dragon, as though pulled by gentle gravity. Exhale, and the luminous mist flows out, settles on the grass blades, makes them shimmer. The chiming intensifies for a moment, creates harmonies with itself, then fades back to its baseline whisper. The gardener settles onto a smooth stone near the grass, simply listening. The garden has many sounds, all of them quiet. The soft chime of the grass, the faint tinkle of the crystal tree's petals, the nearly inaudible hum of the crystals themselves. Not quite a sound, more a vibration that the gardener feels in their bones. And underneath it all, constant and grounding, the dragon's breathing. A thought drifts through the gardener's mind. How long has it been? The thought is idle without urgency. Time below the mountain moves in its ordinary way, days and weeks and seasons marching forward. But here, time is negotiable. The gardener has learned not to count visits, not to measure duration. Sometimes what feels like an hour of tending the garden corresponds to a day in the world below. Sometimes it's the reverse. The mountain keeps its own time, or perhaps it keeps no time at all, and that's fine. The gardener rises, moves on. There are sections of the garden that change rarely, and sections that change with every visit. Near the dragon's tail, where the breath doesn't reach as directly, the plants are older, more stable. A grove of the glass lavender, fully mature, their translucent stems as thick as fingers. A carpet of the blue glowing moss, undisturbed, perfect. These areas need less attention, just a glance, an acknowledgement, a moment of appreciation for their quiet permanence. But near the dragon's head, where the breath is strongest and the dreams are most concentrated, everything is in flux. This is where the new growths appear, where crystals form overnight, where the magic is most active. The gardener approaches this area now, moving carefully between clusters of dream-touched plants. The dragon's head is enormous up close, the size of a small house, the scales catching and fracturing light in complex ways. One amber eye is visible, closed, the lid smooth and faintly luminous. The gardener has never seen the dragon's eyes open, has never heard anyone speak of them being open. The dragon sleeps, and that is the nature of things. The breath here is more concentrated, the mist thicker, warm against the gardener's skin. The effect on the plants is more pronounced. A flower that might be an orchid but isn't opens and closes its petals in rhythm with the dragon's breathing, revealing an interior that glows soft gold. A fern with fronds made of something that looks like frozen water grows visibly, adding a new frond every few minutes. The growth so slow it's only noticeable if one stays very still and watches for a long time. The gardener does this sometimes. Simply sits and watches a single plant grow, witnessing the microscopic unfolding of leaf from stem, the gradual brightening of a petal, the slow formation of a new crystal face. There is meditation in this, a quieting of the mind that comes from observing processes so gradual they occur beneath the level of normal human patience. Today, The gardener chooses to watch a particular crystal formation near the dragon's left nostril. It's a cluster of clear crystals, each one perfectly hexagonal, growing from a central base. The crystals are about as long as the gardener's hand, and they're actively growing, the dragon's breath washing over them, condensing, somehow solidifying into mineral form. The process is impossibly slow. The gardener settles into a comfortable position, breathes slowly, and watches. First, nothing seems to happen. The crystals simply are static, catching the ambient light. But after several minutes of watching, or perhaps it's longer, time is hard to track, the gardener begins to see it. The faintest lengthening at the tip of one crystal. Growth measured in fractions of millimeters. A layer of new material, translucent and perfect, adding itself to the existing structure. The dragon breathes out, and the mist settles on the crystals. For a moment, the mist seems to be absorbed, pulled into the crystal structure. Then it solidifies, becomes part of the crystal, adds to its mass in an increment so small it's almost imaginary. But it's real. The gardener sees it, witnesses it, and in the witnessing, gives it meaning. This is what it means to tend a dragon's garden. Not to control or direct or improve, but to observe. To be present for the slow magic. To say, with one's attention, I see you, you matter. Your growth, however slow, is worth watching. The gardener stays with the crystals for a time that could be minutes or hours. Eventually, the watching reaches a natural completion. Not because anything specific happens, but because the gardener has seen enough, has been present enough. The watching has fulfilled its purpose. Rising, stretching gently, the gardener continues the slow circuit of the garden. There are always things to notice. A leaf that has changed color since the last visit. A stone that has shifted position, moved by slow geological processes or by the magic that suffuses everything here. A new pattern in the way the mist flows from the dragon's nostrils. A subtle spiral that wasn't there before. The gardener notes these things, some in words thought silently, some in a level of awareness deeper than words. The garden teaches a language of attention that doesn't require naming. One can notice a thing fully without putting it into language. Sometimes language limits the noticing, tries to contain it in definitions. Here, the gardener has learned to let things be what they are without needing to explain them, even to oneself. Near the south side of the garden, if south means anything here, there is a small pool. It appeared several visits ago, or perhaps it was always there and the gardener simply hadn't noticed it. Impossible to say. The pool is perfectly round, about 3 paces across, filled with water so clear it's almost invisible. The water is warm, heated by the same dragon warmth that keeps the whole garden temperate. The gardener kneels by the pool, looks into it. The bottom is lined with the finest sand, pale gold, and scattered with tiny crystals that sparkle like stars. The water is completely still, not even the faintest ripple. The gardener has never seen it move, though it must somehow circulate, must somehow replenish itself. Magic, perhaps, or simply the nature of this place, where ordinary rules are gently suspended. In the water's mirror surface, the gardener can see the reflection of the sky above. It's an interesting sky today, if today is today. Soft colors wash across it in slow gradients. Rose fading to violet, violet to deep blue, blue to a pale green that reminds the gardener of new leaves. The colors don't move like sunset or sunrise. They simply are, shifting so gradually that watching them feels like watching time itself. The gardener occasionally drinks from the pool, though there's no real thirst here. The water tastes clean, faintly mineral, with a subtle sweetness that might be magic or might just be very pure water. It's refreshing in a way that goes beyond physical refreshment. Drinking it feels like a small communion with the garden, a tiny acknowledgement of interconnection. Today, The gardener doesn't drink, just observes the pool, watches the faint shimmer of magic that occasionally ripples across its surface when the dragon's breath passes nearby. The shimmer is like heat waves, but cool, and it leaves no trace, just a momentary distortion of the reflected sky. The dragon's breathing changes slightly. It's subtle, barely noticeable, but the gardener has been doing this long enough to recognize the shift immediately. The rhythm remains the same, that impossibly slow inhale and exhale, unchanging as tides, as constant as the rotation of stars, but the quality of the breath changes, becomes slightly deeper, perhaps, drawing air from some deeper place within the dragon's vast lungs. The mist that emerges carries different colors now, less pearl white and gold, more silver and deep blue, colors like moonlight on water, like starlight on snow. The gardener straightens from examining a cluster of small violet crystals, pays closer attention. This shift in the dragon's breathing usually means the dragon is moving into a different phase of dreaming. The dreams come in cycles, though the cycles are not regular, not predictable like the phases of the moon or the turning of seasons. Sometimes a single dream phase lasts for what feels like days, the dragon deep in some vast slow narrative that unfolds over subjective centuries. Sometimes the dreams shift rapidly, one flowing into another like scenes in a play, each lasting only hours or even less. The gardener has learned to recognize the transitions, to watch for the signs, to prepare for the changes that will ripple through the garden. Already, things are beginning to change. The blue glowing moss brightens noticeably, its light intensifying from a faint glow to something clearly visible even in the ambient illumination of the garden. The light pulses more strongly now, in perfect rhythm with the dragon's breathing, creating waves of blue radiance that wash across the moss carpets like waves on a shore, regular and hypnotic. The grass, the not-quite grass with its geometric precision and spiral growth, changes its chiming. The sound that was barely audible, a whisper of distant bells, drops to a lower register, becomes more resonant, fuller, a sound that the gardener can feel in their chest as much as hear in their ears. The grass stalks sway slightly even though there's no wind, moving to their own rhythm, their own internal music. Several of the flowers that had been open begin to close their petals slowly, like hands folding in prayer, like eyes closing in sleep. They close with deliberate grace, each petal moving independently, finding its place against the others, creating perfectly geometric forms, spheres and spirals and shapes that have no common names. Other flowers that had been closed begin to open, petals spreading wide to receive the changed quality of the dragon's breath, revealing interiors of deep blue and silver, stamens that glow with soft lunar light. The crystals change too, and this is perhaps the most dramatic transformation. The clear ones near the dragon's head begin to develop a blue tint, subtle at first, just the faintest suggestion of color in their transparency, as though they were beginning to remember being sapphire. But the tint strengthens moment by moment, growing from hint to suggestion to definite color, the crystals becoming genuinely blue, the color seeming to bloom from their centers outward, spreading through the crystalline structure like ink diffusing through water. The blue crystals that were already blue deepen their color, become more saturated, more intense. And the other colors, the greens and violets and occasional amber, all begin to show silver inclusions now, thin threads of metallic light appearing within the crystal structures, growing from nothing like veins, like rivers on a map, like the branching of lightning, creating complex internal landscapes within each stone. New crystals start to form in different locations throughout the garden. The gardener can see tiny sparkles appearing in the soil where there were none before, the first hints of new growth, nucleation sites where the dragon's changed breath is beginning to build new mineral structures. These will grow over time into full crystals, given the patient months and years it takes for such things to develop. But for now, they're just possibilities, just beginnings, glimmers in the earth. This is one of the garden's deepest beauties, one of the things that keeps the gardener returning, that makes each visit feel necessary, important. The way the garden responds to the dragon's inner life. The way invisible dreams become visible magic, translated through breath and mist into mineral and botanical form. The dragon shifts in its sleep, and the whole world around it shifts in response. The gardener moves to a central location, a small natural rise in the terrain where several smooth stones create a comfortable seat, where the view encompasses most of the garden in a single sweep of the eyes. This is a good place to watch transformations, to witness the changes as they ripple through the living landscape. Settling onto the stones, the gardener breathes slowly, consciously matching rhythm with the dragon. In-breath, slow and deep. Out-breath, releasing completely. The matching helps the gardener to sink into the garden's time, to let go of any residual hurry, any fragment of the world below's urgency that might still be clinging to awareness. The transformation continues, happening slowly enough that if one weren't paying attention, one might miss it entirely, might think nothing had changed. But the gardener is paying attention, is always paying attention, and so sees everything, each small shift, each incremental transformation. The mist flowing from the dragon's nostrils is thicker now, more substantial, almost liquid in its movement. It flows across the garden like slow water, like honey, settling into low places, pooling around the bases of plants, creating temporary lakes of silver luminescence that gradually evaporate back into the air or are absorbed into the soil, adding their magic to whatever grows there. Where the mist touches the blue moss, small sparks of light appear within the moss itself. Not on its surface, but within the tiny leaves, tiny cells lighting up individually, creating constellations of light within the moss carpet. It's like watching the night sky. If the night sky were blue-green and very close and made of living things, the lights appear, brighten, fade, appear elsewhere, creating patterns that might be random or might follow some deep logic the gardener doesn't understand. Where the mist touches the crystal trees, those strange not-quite trees with crystalline growths instead of leaves, they chime in response, a sound like rain on glass, impossibly delicate yet carrying clearly across the garden. Each crystal leaf has its own note, its own frequency, and together they create harmonies that are never quite the same, that shift with each passage of mist, each breath from the dragon. The sound is beautiful in the way that wind in trees is beautiful, natural, and unforced, arising from simple physics but creating something that feels intentional, meaningful. Where the mist touches the flowers, they respond according to their natures. Some brighten, their colors intensifying. Some begin to move, swaying gently as though to music only they can hear. Some emit scents, faint, subtle, nothing overpowering, just gentle fragrances that drift on the air and mix together. Honey and rain and something indefinably green, something that smells like growing things, like life itself. A new type of flower begins to emerge near the dragon's right forearm, and the gardener focuses attention there, wanting to witness the process from the very beginning. This is one of the privileges of tending the garden, being present for births, for beginnings, for the first moment when something new enters the world. The soil stirs first, barely visible, just the slightest displacement of grains. Then, so slowly it's almost imperceptible, a shoot emerges. It's pale and translucent, like frosted glass or like ice, and it has a faint internal light, blue-silver, that pulses very slowly in exact rhythm with the dragon's breathing. The gardener settles in to watch, knowing this will take time, glad for the time it will take. There's a meditation in watching things grow, especially things that grow this slowly. It requires a particular quality of attention, patient, open, not grasping. One cannot force growth to happen faster by watching harder. One can only be present, can only witness, can only allow the process to unfold in its own time. The shoot grows, Millimeter by millimeter it extends upward, pushing through the soil, reaching toward the light. The growth is so slow that if the gardener were to look away for even a minute, they might think nothing had changed. But by watching continuously, by keeping attention focused, the growth becomes visible. Not as movement exactly, but as change, as the shoot being slightly taller each moment than it was the moment before. The shoot thickens as it grows, becomes more substantial. What started as something thread-thin becomes as thick as a blade of grass, then thicker still, developing internal structure that's visible through its translucent surface, something like veins or vessels, channels through which some pale fluid flows, carrying nutrients, carrying magic, building the plant cell by cell. The internal light pulses with each pulse of dragon breath, blue to silver and back to blue, a slow rhythm that's hypnotic to watch. The gardener's own breathing unconsciously matches the rhythm, and with each breath feels a deepening relaxation, a letting go of something that didn't even know it was held. Time passes in its unmeasured way. The shoot continues its patient growth. Eventually might mean 20 minutes or might mean 2 hours, impossible to say. It's perhaps as long as a finger. The tip has begun to swell, developing what will become a bud. The bud forms gradually, the shoot's tip thickening, rounding, beginning to show the first hints of structure. Overlapping scales or leaves that will protect the flower until it's ready to open. The bud is tightly closed, compact, shaped like a teardrop or a flame, and through its translucent surface the gardener can see hints of what's inside, layers of deeper blue, a core that glows silver, the suggestion of complex internal architecture. The bud continues to swell, and the shoot beneath it continues to thicken, to lengthen, becoming more substantial. The plant, for it's clearly a plant now, not just a shoot, develops small leaves along its stem, tiny things shaped like crescents or like sickle moons, each one translucent and glowing with that same blue-silver light. The gardener watches all of this with complete absorption, time ceasing to have any meaning at all. There's only the watching, only the slow unfurling of the plant, only the quiet breathing of the dragon and the responsive pulsing of light through the new growth. Eventually, the plant stops growing, or rather reaches a pause, a temporary completion. It's now perhaps the length of the gardener's forearm, and the bud at its tip has swollen to the size of a walnut. The plant seems to settle, to consolidate, gathering energy or magic or whatever it is that fuels growth in this place. The gardener knows from experience that it might be hours before the flower opens, or it might not open at all during this visit. Some flowers take many visits to fully bloom, emerging over what would be weeks in the ordinary world. That's all right. The garden teaches patience, or perhaps it teaches that patience isn't something one learns but something one becomes, simply by being here, by witnessing the slow unfolding of magic that cannot be rushed. The mist continues to flow from the dragon, wave after wave of silver-touched blue, washing across the garden, seeping into soil and stone and the cells of living things. The transformation is ongoing, not an event but a process, not a moment but a continuous becoming. All across the garden now, silver becomes the dominant accent. The moss's blue glow is edged with silver, each tiny leaf outlined in metallic light. The crystals show silver veins and inclusions, thread-like patterns running through their structures. Even the soil seems to shimmer with it, as though fine silver dust were being sifted across the entire garden, settling into every crevice, every crack, every space between things. The continuous blooming trees' flowers are affected too. The white ones take on a silver sheen, like pearls. The golden ones become more amber silver, a warm metallic glow. The dissolving ones, breaking apart into motes of light, now throw silver sparks as they rise, tiny points of metallic brightness joining the upward drift. The quality of light in the garden has changed fundamentally. What was warm and golden before is now cool and lunar, as though moonlight were shining even though no moon is visible in the shifting sky above. The garden has taken on the character of a nocturnal place, a realm of soft shadows and gentle luminescence, of mysteries that reveal themselves slowly to patient observation. The gardener rises from the observation stone, moves slowly through this transformed landscape. Each plant, each crystal, each feature of the garden deserves individual attention, individual acknowledgement. The gardener moves from cluster to cluster, observing how each has responded to the dragon's changed dreaming. Here, a group of the glass lavender stems now shows silver veins running through their transparency, creating delicate internal patterns like frost on windows. There, a carpet of the fog mushrooms has developed a silver shimmer on their surfaces, making them even more ephemeral-looking, more like solidified mist. A small pool that the gardener hadn't noticed before, or perhaps it just formed. Perhaps it's a new feature called into being by the dragon's silver dreaming, sits among stones at the garden's edge. The water is perfectly still, mirror-smooth, and its surface reflects the sky above with such clarity that looking at it creates a moment of vertigo, of uncertainty about which direction is up. The gardener kneels by this pool, looks into it. The water is so clear it's almost invisible. Only the reflections betray its presence. The bottom is lined with fine sand that looks silver in this light, and scattered with tiny crystals that sparkle like stars, creating the impression that the pool contains a fragment of night sky, that one could reach into it and touch stars. The pool's surface occasionally ripples, not from wind, for there is no wind, but from some internal movement, some subtle current, or perhaps from the dragon's breath passing nearby. Each ripple creates expanding circles that distort the reflected sky, break the image into pieces, then let it reform as the water settles. The gardener remains by the pool for a time that could be minutes or much longer, simply watching the water, watching the reflections shift and reform, watching the occasional passage of the dragon's silver mist across the surface, creating temporary patterns of light and shadow. This is the nature of tending. Not constant activity, not constant doing, but also presence, also attention. Being with the garden in all its moods, all its transformations. Witnessing the slow magic with patient eyes and an open heart. After a time, the gardener rises, continues the slow circuit. The silver-blue flower that began growing earlier is still closed, still gathering itself. The gardener pauses beside it, examines it more closely now. The bud is beautiful even in its closedness. The overlapping protective scales are delicately formed, each one slightly different from the others, arranged in a spiral pattern that's satisfying to the eye. Through the translucent scales, the internal glow has intensified. The silver core pulses more strongly now, and the blue layers around it seem deeper, more saturated. The gardener has a sense that the flower is close to opening, that it's reached some internal threshold. But close in the garden's time might still mean hours, might mean longer. There's nothing to do but wait, to be present, to continue attending to the rest of the garden while the flower completes its own mysterious process. The dragon breathes and the mist flows, and the garden continues its slow transformation, and the gardener continues witnessing it all. And this is how time passes in a place where time doesn't quite pass the way it does elsewhere, where moments stretch and compress according to their own logic, where patience is not a virtue but simply the natural state of being. The silver dream deepens, settles into itself, and the garden glows with lunar light, and somewhere in the dragon's vast consciousness, narratives unfold that will never be known but whose effects bloom visible in crystal and leaf, in light and growth, in beauty that asks nothing but to be seen. While waiting, the gardener tends to other small tasks. There's a cluster of the glass lavender that has accumulated a light coating of the fine golden pollen that falls from the continuous blooming tree. The pollen doesn't harm the plants, but the gardener likes to keep things tidy in a very gentle way. Using the soft brush, the gardener carefully brushes the pollen from the translucent stems, watching it drift away on the warm air currents. The pollen catches the light as it drifts, glows softly, and the gardener has a moment of wondering where it goes. Does it settle elsewhere in the garden? Does it contribute to new growth? Does it simply dissolve into the magic that permeates everything? The gardener doesn't know, and that's one of the garden's gifts, the permission to not know, to let mysteries remain mysterious. The dragon's breathing shifts again, becomes even deeper. The mist thickens, and now it carries unmistakable currents of silver, flowing through it like veins in marble. The quality of light in the garden changes, becomes cooler, more lunar, as though moonlight were shining even though no moon is visible in the shifting sky above. This is a deep dream, the gardener realizes. One of the dragon's profound dreams, the ones that reshape the garden more significantly, that leave lasting changes. The gardener sets down the brush, moves back to the observation point on the small rise, and simply watches. All across the garden, silver begins to appear. Not dramatically, this place knows nothing of drama, but steadily, inevitably. The moss develops silver edges, each tiny leaf outlined in light. The crystals begin to show silver inclusions, fine threads of metallic light running through their structures. Even the soil seems to shimmer with it, as though fine silver dust were being sifted across the entire garden. The new flower, the one that began growing from the shoot, responds most strongly. Its bud begins to swell more rapidly, though rapidly is relative. It still takes many minutes. The translucent outer petals start to separate, pulling back slowly like curtains, revealing the layers beneath. The flower is complex. There are many layers of petals, each one slightly more silver than the last, and each layer unfolds in its own time. The outermost petals spread first, revealing the next layer, which then spreads, revealing the next. The movement is mesmerizing in its gradual precision. Nothing hurries. Each petal takes exactly as long as it needs to take. The gardener watches, barely breathing, not wanting to disturb the air, though of course the flower wouldn't notice or care. This is for the gardener's benefit, this careful stillness, a way of honoring the moment. The flower continues to open. 5 layers of petals, 6, 7, each one more intensely silver, more radiant. At the center, finally revealed as the last petals spread wide, is a core of pure light. Not white, not blue, but silver so bright it's almost a color that doesn't exist in the ordinary world. The light doesn't hurt to look at. Instead, it seems to make seeing easier, clearer, as though it clarifies the air itself. The flower is now fully open, perhaps as wide as the gardener's 2 hands spread, and it is extraordinary. Beautiful, yes, but more than that. It has a presence, a weight of meaning that goes beyond aesthetics. The gardener feels something shift internally, something wordless, an expansion, perhaps. A moment of understanding something that can't be understood in language. The dragon is dreaming of moonlight, or perhaps of silver, or perhaps of some dragon concept that humans don't have words for, and moonlight and silver is just the closest translation the garden can manage. The gardener sits with this feeling, this moment, not trying to hold onto it or understand it, just letting it be. The garden teaches this too, how to let experiences wash through without grasping them. How to be moved without needing to contain the movement in memory or words. Time passes in its unmeasured way. The silver flower remains open, glowing softly. Around the garden, the silver-touched plants settle into their new state, neither increasing nor decreasing in their luminescence, just being. Eventually, and it's impossible to say how long eventually is, the quality of the dragon's breath begins to shift again. The silver recedes gradually, doesn't disappear but fades to a softer presence. The mist takes on warmer tones again, hints of gold returning, soft greens. The transition between dreams is always gentle, never abrupt. One dream doesn't end so much as it flows into the next, the way one season flows into another in the world outside. Gradually, with much overlap, the old and new coexisting for a while before the new fully emerges. The gardener rises, stretches, walks slowly to the silver flower. Up close, it's even more remarkable. The petals are translucent and layered, and looking into them is like looking into depths, as though each petal were a window into someplace else. The central light pulses very slowly, a heartbeat, perhaps the echo of the dragon's own heart beating far below the threshold of hearing. The gardener kneels beside the flower, simply appreciating it. No need to touch, to pick, to possess. The appreciation is complete in itself. The flower will remain here, will probably last for several visits, slowly closing and opening in rhythm with the dragon's dreams until eventually it fades, returns to light and mist, and becomes the potential for something new. Everything in the garden is temporary, and everything is eternal. The individual flowers come and go, but the flowering continues. The specific crystals grow and sometimes dissolve back into the soil, but the crystallization never stops. It's a paradox that would be frustrating in the ordinary world, but here it's simply true, both things at once. The gardener notices that the sky has shifted again. It's now a deep, soft indigo, the color of night, but still with that omnipresent glow that prevents true darkness. Stars are visible, or things like stars, bright points of light that might be actual stars or might be something else entirely, reflections of the crystal's glow or the dragon's dreams made distant light. The gardener has never been certain. Under this twilight that might be dawn, the garden takes on a different character. The glowing plants are more visible, their light more significant against the darker sky. The garden becomes a field of soft lights. Blue moss here, silver flower there, the crystal tree's petals, the faint luminescence of certain stones. Walking through it now feels like walking through a constellation, stars above and stars below, the gardener moving between them. The dragon continues its endless breathing, the rhythm unchanged. In-breath, long and slow. Out-breath, mist and magic. In-breath, out-breath. The pattern that has continued for centuries, that will continue for centuries more, until the dragon wakes. If it wakes, or until time ends, if time can end. The gardener follows a narrow path between clusters of plants, heading toward a section of the garden that has always been particularly active. Here, near where the dragon's breath flows strongest, the magic is most concentrated, and new growths appear most frequently. Today there's something new, or rather, something is happening that the gardener has seen before but never quite like this. A crystal formation, one that has been growing for many visits, has reached a kind of critical mass. It's a large cluster now, dozens of individual crystals growing from a central point, each one as long as the gardener's forearm, all of them the same pale violet color. As the gardener watches, the dragon's breath flows over the crystals, and they respond in a way they haven't before. They begin to resonate. It starts as a barely audible hum, a vibration more felt than heard. But it builds gradually, not louder exactly, but more present. The crystals are vibrating at some specific frequency, and the vibration creates a sound that seems to exist in the space between hearing and feeling. It resonates in the gardener's chest, in their bones, a deep harmonic that feels both ancient and somehow new. The gardener stands very still, letting the resonance wash through. It's not unpleasant, quite the opposite. It feels like being tuned, like a stringed instrument being brought into proper pitch. Something inside the gardener, some tension that wasn't even noticeable until now, begins to release. Shoulders drop slightly, breathing deepens. The small accumulated stresses of existence, even existence in this timeless place, begin to dissolve. The crystals continue their humming for a time, then gradually quiet, settling back into their previous state of silent growth. But something has changed. The formation seems more complete now, more finished. The gardener has a sense that this particular cluster has reached the end of its growth cycle, that it will remain as it is now, a permanent fixture of the garden, a node of quiet power. The gardener bows slightly toward the crystals. An acknowledgement, a small gesture of respect. The garden doesn't require such gestures, but they feel right, a way of marking significant moments, of saying without words, "I witnessed this. It mattered." Moving on, the gardener comes to one of the garden's stranger features. A small grove of what might be trees but aren't quite. They're perhaps twice the height of a person, with smooth bark that shifts in color from deep blue at the base to pale silver at the top. Instead of leaves, they have what look like crystals growing from their branches. Small faceted structures that catch light and throw it in unexpected directions. The grove has been here as long as the gardener has been tending the garden, but it's never static. The trees grow, imperceptibly slowly, and the crystals on their branches change. New ones forming, old ones occasionally falling and dissolving into the soil. Walking through the grove is like walking through a sculpture that's constantly remaking itself. Today, the trees seem particularly active. The dragon's breath flows through the grove, and the crystal leaves respond by creating points of light that shift and dance. Not randomly, there's a pattern to it, a rhythm that mirrors the dragon's breathing. Light appears, brightens, fades, appears elsewhere, creating a slow cascade of illumination through the grove. The gardener walks slowly through this light show, watching the patterns, trying to intuit their meaning. Because there is meaning here, even if it's not the kind of meaning that can be put into words. The patterns speak in some language of pure form, pure light, saying something about the nature of growth and change, about the way beauty emerges from simple rules applied with patience. Or perhaps they say nothing at all, are simply beautiful for beauty's own sake, and that's enough. The gardener emerges from the grove on the far side, near the edge of the garden where the standing stones mark the boundary. The path down the mountain is visible beyond, winding through the angled pines. But it's not time to leave yet. There's more to witness, more to tend. The dragon's breathing is changing again. The mist becomes warmer, takes on tones of soft amber and rose. This is a gentler dream the gardener senses, something sweet and peaceful. The garden responds accordingly. Flowers that had been closed begin to open, slowly, revealing interiors of warm colors. Petals the color of sunrise, stamens dusted with gold. The crystals that had been blue or silver begin to show amber inclusions, warm light growing within their cold structures. The overall feeling of the garden shifts, becomes more welcoming, more gentle, if that's even possible in a place that's already so gentle. A new growth appears near the dragon's left hind foot. The gardener moves to observe it. It's a plant unlike any that has appeared before. A small bush, growing rapidly by garden standards, which means it's adding a new leaf every few minutes. The leaves are rounded, soft-looking, and they're a warm green that seems to glow from within. As the bush grows, small buds form along its branches. The buds swell, and then they open, and they're not flowers but something else. Small fruits, perhaps, or something fruit-like. They're round and about the size of cherries, and they glow with a soft amber light, like tiny lanterns. The gardener watches several of these fruit lights form and ripen. They seem complete when they reach a certain size, a certain intensity of glow, and then they simply hang there, perfect, neither growing larger nor diminishing. The bush itself stops growing after producing perhaps 20 of the glowing fruits, settles into stillness, a new permanent addition to the garden's inventory of wonders. The gardener crouches near the bush, examining the fruits without touching. They're beautiful in their simplicity, just small spheres of warm light, uncomplicated, pure. The light they emit is comforting, reminds the gardener of candlelight, of hearths, of safety and warmth. After a while, the gardener reaches out very gently and touches one of the fruits. It's warm to the touch and soft, and the instant of contact sends a small ripple of warmth up the gardener's arm. Not unpleasant, just noticeable. The fruit remains on the branch, undisturbed. The gardener doesn't pick it. That's not the way here. Things are allowed to be without being possessed. The gardener settles onto the ground near the new bush, leaning back against a smooth stone, and simply rests. This is part of tending too. Not constant activity, but also rest, being present without doing. The garden doesn't always need hands, doesn't always need tools. Sometimes it just needs company. From this resting position, the gardener can see much of the garden. The dragon in the center, vast and peaceful. The silver flower still glowing near the dragon's forearm. The crystal grove catching and throwing light. The blue moss creating its own illumination. The new bush with its amber fruit lights. The glass lavender swaying slightly in currents of warm air. The continuous blooming tree with its flowers in all stages from white to amber to dissolving light. It's a lot. It's almost overwhelming in its beauty, in its quiet intensity. But the garden teaches how to be with overwhelming beauty without being overwhelmed. How to simply let it be, let oneself be in it without needing to capture or understand or hold onto the experience. The dragon breathes, and the mist flows out, settles on everything, adds another imperceptible layer to the crystals, another fraction of life to the plants, another moment to the eternal present that is this place. The gardener's own breathing synchronizes with the dragon's, naturally, without effort. Slow breath in, slow breath out. In the spaces between breaths, something that might be thought but isn't quite, awareness without content, presence without intention. Time dissolves. The gardener might sit here for minutes or hours. There's no way to know, and it doesn't matter. What matters is the being here, the quiet witnessing, the gentle participation in magic that asks nothing but attention. Eventually, the quality of the dragon's breath begins to shift once more. The amber and rose fade gradually, and new colors emerge. Pale green, the color of new leaves, new growth. Fresh and clean and full of potential. The garden stirs. The gardener can feel it, a subtle increase in energy, in life force. This is a growth dream, a dream of beginning, of emergence. All across the garden, new shoots begin to appear. Tiny green points pushing up through the soil, so small they're almost invisible. But the gardener knows what to look for, has learned to see the barely there. Dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, scattered throughout the garden. Each one a potential flower or crystal or something yet unseen. The gardener rises, begins to move through the garden again, observing each new growth. They're all slightly different shades of green, different shapes of emerging leaf. The dragon is dreaming biodiversity, dreaming variety within unity, and the garden translates this into a multitude of small beginnings. Near the pool, a particularly vigorous shoot has emerged, already several inches tall, with what look like compound leaves beginning to unfurl. The gardener kneels beside it, watches the unfurling happen in real time, slow but visible. Each leaflet spreading from the central stem, revealing a surface that's not quite green, not quite silver, but something in between. The plant continues to grow as the gardener watches. A stem thickens, rises higher. More leaves unfurl. In the span of perhaps half an hour, if time can be measured in half hours here, the plant has grown to knee height and it shows no signs of stopping. This is unusual. Most growth in the garden happens so slowly it's imperceptible unless one watches with dedicated patience. But this plant is growing visibly, responding to the dragon's dream with unusual vigor. The gardener watches, fascinated. The plant reaches waist height, then chest height. The leaves are large now, each one the size of the gardener's hand, with delicate veining that glows very faintly. The stem has developed a slight spiral, rising in a graceful curve rather than straight up. At shoulder height, the plant begins to develop what might be a bud at its tip. The bud forms quickly, again quickly by garden standards, which still means over the course of several minutes. It swells, elongates, begins to show color through the protective outer leaves. The gardener realizes this is going to be a significant flower, something important. The speed of growth, the size of the plant, the concentration of magic that's clearly flowing into it. All signs of something meaningful about to emerge. The bud continues to develop. It's large now, the size of 2 fists together, and the color showing through is a brilliant green gold, radiant. The outer leaves begin to peel back, slowly, revealing layers beneath. And then, after a time that feels both endless and instantaneous, the flower begins to open. The first sign is the outermost protective scales beginning to separate, pulling back slowly like curtains opening on a stage, revealing the layers beneath. The movement is so gradual that at first the gardener isn't certain it's happening. It might be a trick of the light, a shift in perspective. But no, the scales are definitely moving, spreading apart with deliberate slowness. The flower is complex, more complex than the gardener initially realized. There are many layers of petals, each one slightly more silver than the last, and each layer unfolds in its own time, following its own inner schedule. The movement is mesmerizing in its gradual precision. Nothing hurries. Each petal takes exactly as long as it needs to take. The outermost petals spread first, revealing the next layer, which is slightly smaller, slightly more blue, slightly more luminous. These second-layer petals remain closed for a time, while the outer ones continue to spread, opening fully until they're nearly horizontal, creating a platform for the inner flower. Then the second layer begins to open. Same slow unfurling, same patient revelation. The petals separate, spread, reveal the third layer beneath, and the gardener can see now that there are at least 7 layers, possibly more, each one nested inside the others like a set of bowls or like those wooden dolls that contain smaller versions of themselves. The gardener watches, barely breathing, not wanting to disturb the air, though of course the flower wouldn't notice or care. This is for the gardener's benefit, this careful stillness, a way of honoring the moment, of being maximally present for this small miracle. The flower continues to open. 3 layers visible now, then 4. The colors deepen with each layer. The outermost petals are pale blue with silver edges, the next layer darker blue, the next layer darker still, until the innermost visible petals are a blue so deep it's almost purple, almost black, but still somehow luminous, still glowing with internal light. Each layer has a different texture too. The outer petals are smooth and satiny, light playing across their surfaces in simple reflections. The middle petals have a slight crystalline quality, catching light and refracting it into tiny sparks. The inner petals visible now have a velvet quality, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, creating depth, creating mystery. 5 layers open now. 6. The process takes time measured in breaths, dragon breaths, slow and vast, perhaps 20 or 30 of them, which might be minutes or might be an hour. Time has lost all meaning in the watching. There's only the flower, only the slow revelation, only the beauty emerging petal by petal. 7 layers. At the center, finally revealed as the last protective petals spread wide, is a core of pure light. Not white light, not blue light, but silver so bright and pure it seems to be a color that doesn't exist in the ordinary world. A color that only appears in dragon dreams and in places where magic is thick enough to touch. The light doesn't hurt to look at. Instead, it seems to make seeing easier, clearer, as though it clarifies the air itself, as though it burns away some invisible fog that normally obscures perception. Looking into the flower's heart, the gardener sees not just light but something more. Something that might be meaning or might be beauty or might be some dragon concept that humans don't have words for. The flower is now fully open, perhaps as wide as the gardener's two hands spread. Magnificent and strange and somehow exactly right, exactly what it should be. His presence fills the space around it, not physically, but energetically, emotionally. The flower has weight, has significance, exists not just as a pretty object but as something meaningful in itself. The gardener sits with this feeling, this moment, not trying to hold onto it or understand it or translate it into words, just letting it be, letting it wash through awareness and move on. The garden teaches this, how to let experiences happen without grasping them, how to be moved without needing to contain the movement in memory or language. The dragon's breath flows past the flower, and the flower responds, swaying very slightly on its stem. The petals seem to breathe with the dragon, expanding slightly on the in-breath, settling on the out-breath. A sympathetic rhythm that connects flower to dragon, that makes visible the invisible thread between dreamer and dream. The gardener remains kneeling beside the flower for a time that could be minutes or much longer. Eventually, without consciously deciding to rise, without any sense of the watching being finished, the gardener simply stands, brushes soil from their knees, and bows slightly to the flower, a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of acknowledgement. The flower remains, glowing softly, its silver heart pulsing in rhythm with the dragon's breathing. It will stay like this for a time, perhaps for many visits, perhaps until the dream shifts again. Eventually it will close, will return to bud form, will fade, will dissolve back into light and potential. But for now it exists, fully and completely, a node of beauty in the garden's web of wonders. The gardener continues exploring the transformed garden. Other changes have occurred during the time spent watching the flower open. The silver-blue quality of the dragon's dream has settled into everything, has become a fundamental characteristic of the space. A grove of the strange, not-quite trees with crystalline leaves shows particular transformation. The tree's bark has developed a silver sheen, and the crystal leaves have grown larger, more elaborate, throwing patterns of blue-silver light in complex geometries across the ground beneath them. Walking through the grove now is like walking through a sculpture made of light and shadow, through patterns that shift with every step, with every small change in the angle of viewing. The gardener moves slowly through these patterns, watching them change, not trying to understand or analyze but simply experiencing the play of light, the way beauty can emerge from simple rules applied patiently. Small creatures appear occasionally in the garden, though appear might not be the right word. The gardener has never been certain whether the creatures are always present and simply unnoticed, or whether they emerge from the dragons dreaming the way the flowers do, manifesting when the dream calls for them and disappearing when it doesn't. Today a few are visible, or more accurately, partially visible, glimpses of movement at the edge of perception. Something that might be a bird or might be a floating leaf, moving through the air with dreamlike slowness. Something small and luminous among the moss, appearing and disappearing, never quite seen directly. A ripple in the pool that suggests swimming motion though nothing breaks the surface. The gardener has learned not to look directly at these creatures, not to try to see them clearly. They exist best in peripheral vision, in the corner of awareness. Trying to look at them directly makes them vanish, or reveal themselves to be just leaves, just shadows, just the play of light on water. But seen peripherally, acknowledged but not grasped, they add to the garden's aliveness, its sense of being inhabited by more than just plants and crystals. Time continues its unmeasured flow. The gardener tends to small tasks when tasks present themselves, and simply sits and observes when there's nothing that needs doing. A crystal has accumulated a light coating of golden pollen from the continuous blooming tree. The gardener brushes it clean with the soft brush, watching the pollen drift away on the warm air, catching light as it goes, glowing briefly before disappearing. A section of the blue moss has grown over a small stone, and the gardener gently redirects it, not removing the moss but guiding it to grow around the stone rather than over it, preserving the stone's visibility. Not because the stone is particularly special, but because the small gesture of care feels right, feels like appropriate attention to give to this small feature of the landscape. The dragon breathes, and the garden responds, and the gardener witnesses, and this is the nature of being here, of tending this impossible place. Then, gradually, so gradually it's almost imperceptible at first, the quality of the dragon's breath begins to shift once more. The silver recedes, not disappearing entirely but fading to a softer presence, becoming accent rather than theme. The mist takes on warmer tones, hints of gold returning, touches of soft green like new leaves, like spring growth, like the color of hope if hope had a color. The transition between dreams is always gentle in this place, never abrupt. One dream doesn't end so much as it flows into the next, the way one season flows into another in the world outside. Gradually, with much overlap, the old and new coexisting for a while before the new fully emerges. The garden responds to this shift with its own gradual transformation. The blue glowing moss doesn't stop glowing, but the quality of its light changes, becomes warmer, less lunar and more solar. The crystals that had been showing deep blues and silvers begin to develop green tints, subtle at first but strengthening, particularly in the new small crystals that have been forming during the silver dream. Flowers that had closed during the silver dream begin to open again, petals uncurling to reveal warm colors. Yellows like sunlight, oranges like sunset, soft pinks like dawn. The overall feeling of the garden shifts from the cool mystery of moonlight to something warmer, more welcoming, more gentle. The gardener feels the shift internally too. A warming and easing, a quality of emergence and beginning. This is a growth dream the gardener senses. A dream of spring, of starting, of potential becoming actual. And indeed, all across the garden, new growth begins to appear. The first signs are subtle, tiny green points pushing up through the soil, so small they're almost invisible. But the gardener has learned what to look for, has developed the eye for seeing the barely there. Each green point is a potential flower or plant or crystal or something yet unnamed. Each one a seed of possibility that the dragon's dream is calling into manifestation. They appear everywhere, dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, scattered throughout the garden with no apparent pattern. Some emerge near the dragon's head where the breath is strongest. Others appear at the garden's edges where the magic is more dilute. They don't seem to favor any particular type of soil or location, appearing wherever the dream calls them, wherever the garden decides they should be. The gardener begins a slow circuit, observing each emergence. They're all slightly different shades of green from pale mint to deep forest, different shapes of emerging leaf from needle thin to broad and round, different speeds of growth from barely moving to visibly extending. The dragon is dreaming biodiversity, dreaming variety within unity, and the garden translates this into a multitude of small beginnings. Near the pool's edge, a particularly vigorous shoot has emerged. Unlike the others which are barely visible above the soil, this one is already several inches tall, growing with unusual speed. Unusual for the garden, which means it's adding visible height every few minutes rather than every few hours. The gardener kneels beside it, watches closely. The shoot is thick and healthy looking, a vibrant green that seems to glow from within. It has what look like compound leaves beginning to unfurl. A central stem with smaller leaflets branching off in pairs, each leaflet unfurling from a tight scroll into a delicate blade. The leaves, as they open, reveal a surface that's not quite green, not quite silver, but something in between. A metallic green, like verdigris on copper, like the patina on bronze. They catch light oddly, reflecting it in unexpected directions, creating small flashes and sparkles as the leaves move in the gentle currents of warm air rising from the dragon. The plant continues its vigorous growth. The gardener watches, fascinated by the speed being relative, still slower than growth in the world below, but fast for this place where things usually happen at geological pace. In what might be 20 minutes or might be an hour, the plant has grown to knee height, and its leaves have fully unfurled, creating a complex structure of green-silver fronds that overlap and shade each other in pleasing patterns. The stem thickens as it grows, becomes woody and substantial. The gardener can see the stem developing a slight spiral, rising in a graceful curve rather than straight up, creating visual interest, creating rhythm. The whole plant has a quality of elegant upward reaching, of aspiring toward something above, toward light or sky, or perhaps just toward more space to grow. At knee height, the growth pauses briefly, the plant seeming to consolidate, to gather itself. Then it continues upward with renewed vigor. Waist height, chest height, the leaves continue to develop, becoming larger and more elaborate, their metallic green surfaces catching the ambient light and creating complex patterns of brightness and shadow. At shoulder height, something new begins to develop at the plant's apex. A bud, forming quickly by garden standards but still slowly enough to watch every stage. The tip of the stem swells, rounds, begins to show differentiation, what will become the protective outer scales developing first, then the suggestion of petals beneath, then the complex internal structure that will eventually be stamens and pistils or their magical equivalents. The bud grows larger than the gardener expected. It swells to the size of 2 fists together, an impressive mass that causes the stem to bend slightly under its weight. The outer scales are the same metallic green as the leaves, but they have a waxy quality, a sheen that suggests waterproofing, protection. Through gaps in the scales, the gardener can see color developing beneath. A brilliant green gold, radiant and alive, the color of spring itself concentrated and intensified until it's almost too much, almost overwhelming in its vibrancy. The bud continues to swell, and then, much more quickly than the silver-blue flower opened, it begins to unfurl. The outer scales peel back in rapid succession, each one curling away from the center, revealing the layers beneath. The movement is faster but still graceful, still following the garden's fundamental rhythm of patient revelation. The flower that emerges is stunning, much larger than the silver flower, easily the width of a dinner plate, with many petals arranged in whorls and spirals that create almost hypnotic patterns. Each petal is the color of spring, that particular yellow-green of new leaves backlit by sun, fresh and vibrant and somehow innocent, as though this color had never existed before, was being invented in this moment for the very first time. Each petal has a translucent quality, thin enough that light passes through them, showing delicate structures within, veins of energy or sap or magic running through the petal's structure like rivers on a map, like the branching of blood vessels, like lightning caught and frozen in organic form. The veins glow softly, adding to the overall luminosity of the flower. The center of the flower is revealed last, as the innermost petals spread wide. It's a complex structure, many stamens arranged in geometric patterns around a central pistil, but these are stamens and pistils unlike any in ordinary botany. They seem to shift when looked at, creating optical effects, suggestions of depth and dimension that go beyond the flower's physical form. Looking into the flower's center creates a mild vertigo, a sense of looking into something deeper than the flower's actual depth, as though the center were a gateway or a window into somewhere else. The flower emits a scent too, strong enough that the gardener notices it immediately even from a kneeling position an arm's length away. It's the scent of growing things, of sap and chlorophyll and life itself. Fresh and green and so powerfully evocative of spring and renewal that the gardener feels something catch in their chest. A small tightness that might be emotion, might be memory of springs past, might just be pure response to beauty unfiltered by thought. The scent is complex, not a single note but a chord. There's the green sap smell but also hints of flower sweetness, of earth and rain, of that particular scent that comes when sun shines on wet soil, the smell of the world waking up. It's almost overwhelming in its richness, in its insistence on being noticed, but it's not unpleasant, quite the opposite. It's life asserting itself, declaring its presence, asking to be acknowledged. The gardener kneels in front of the flower, simply taking it in. The dragon's breath flows past, and the flower sways in response, its heavy head bobbing slightly on the strong stem. The petals ripple and shift, creating changing patterns of light and shadow, the translucent surfaces creating complex optical effects as they overlap and separate. This is what the garden does, what it has always done. It takes the invisible, dreams, magic, the inner life of a sleeping dragon, and makes it visible, makes it tangible, makes it beautiful, gives form to formlessness, color to thought, presence to possibility. The dragon dreams, and the dream becomes flower, becomes crystal, becomes light and growth and beauty that can be witnessed, that can move the heart, that can teach patience and wonder and the deep satisfaction of seeing something slowly become what it was always meant to be. The gardener stays with the flower for a long time, maybe the longest vigil of this visit. There's something about this flower that demands extended attention, that rewards continued observation. The way the light moves through the petals changes as the ambient light shifts. The way the scent strengthens and fades in subtle cycles. The way the whole structure sways and moves, responding to currents in the air that are too subtle for human skin to feel but that the flower, in its delicacy, can sense and respond to. Eventually, when the watching feels complete, when the gardener has received whatever gift the flower had to offer, when presence has been given fully and no more is needed, the gardener rises slowly, careful not to disturb anything, and bows to the flower. A deep bow, formal, holding it for a moment before straightening. The flower continues its slow swaying, continues its gentle breathing of scent, continues existing in its perfect nowness, and the gardener continues on, moving through the garden that is more full, more alive, more abundant with each passing moment of the growth dream. The growth dream continues. More shoots emerge, plants develop, the garden fills with new life. Not crowded, there's always space here, always room, but fuller, more abundant. The dragon is generous in its dreaming, it seems, offering the garden this gift of renewal. The gardener tends to small things. A crystal that has tilted slightly and might benefit from a small stone propped beside it for support, purely aesthetic, purely a gesture of care. A section of moss that has grown over a small pathway, which the gardener gently redirects, not removing it but guiding it to grow in a slightly different direction. Small acts, barely necessary, but satisfying in their smallness. The sky has shifted again, now a soft blue-violet, the color of twilight but lighter, more hopeful. The light is perfect for the green things growing, makes them seem even more vibrant, more alive. The dragon's breathing remains steady, the rhythm unchanged even as the dreams cycle through their changes. In-breath, out-breath, the foundation of everything, the pulse that drives the garden's heart. The gardener completes another full circuit of the garden, moving with the slowness that this place teaches, that this place requires. Each step is deliberate, each placement of foot careful and considered. Not from any risk of disturbing something, the garden is resilient, can handle the gardener's weight and presence, but from a quality of mindfulness, of being fully present in the act of walking, of moving through this sacred space. The circuit takes a long time, or perhaps no time at all. The distinction has ceased to matter. What matters is the walking itself, the seeing, the being with. Each plant is observed again, each crystal acknowledged, each feature of the landscape given its moment of attention. The silver blue flower is still glowing, its heart still pulsing with that unearthly light, its petals still spread in perfect symmetry. In time, perhaps after many more visits, it will close, will return to bud, will fade back into potential. But for now it persists, a fixed point of beauty in the garden's constant flux. The large spring-green flower sways gently, still emitting that powerful scent of growth and renewal. Small insects, or things like insects, it's hard to be certain, visit it occasionally, tiny luminous points that land on petals, explore stamens, then fly away on wings that might be wings or might be something else entirely. The flower doesn't seem to need pollination in any ordinary sense, but the visits happen anyway, part of the garden's ecology, part of its web of relationships. The crystal grove has settled into its new configuration. Trees with silver-sheened bark, crystalline leaves throwing patterns of colored light. Walking through it now creates a sense of moving through a different world, a place where the rules are subtly different, where cause and effect follow dream logic rather than physical law. The continuous blooming tree continues its patient cycle, white blossoms opening, fading through cream and gold to amber, dissolving into upward drifting motes of light. The tree is eternal in its changing, never the same from moment to moment, yet always fundamentally itself. It's a living koan, a meditation on impermanence and continuity, on how things can die and be born simultaneously, how endings and beginnings are not opposite but identical. The blue moss glows with its characteristic light, waves of luminescence washing across its surface in rhythm with the dragon's breathing. The gardener could watch this for hours, for days, mesmerized by the simple rhythm, by the way light flows like water across the moss field, creating ever-shifting patterns of brightness and shadow. Near the pool, that perfectly round mirror of water, new small growths have appeared during the visit. Tiny shoots, each one barely visible, creating a ring around the pool's edge. The gardener kneels to examine them, sees that they're some kind of grass or reed, thin as threads, swaying in currents of air too subtle to feel. They're the palest green, almost white, almost translucent, and they emit the faintest possible glow, like the last light of day just before full dark. The gardener watches these new growths for a while, witnessing their first moments of existence, their tentative reaching toward light and space. They're so fragile, so delicate, it seems impossible they could survive. But the garden is gentle, is protective of its young growths, and these reeds will thrive, will grow tall in their own time, will become another feature of the landscape, another note in the garden's ongoing symphony. The dragon continues its endless breathing, unchanged and unchanging even as everything around it transforms in response to its dreams. In-breath, vast and slow, pulling air across the whole garden. Out-breath, mist and magic flowing forth, seeping into every crack and crevice, feeding every growing thing. The gardener stands beside the dragon once more, close enough to feel the radiant warmth, close enough to see individual scales in perfect detail. Each scale is a work of art, slightly different from its neighbors, catching light uniquely, contributing to the whole of the dragon's magnificent presence. Looking at the dragon, the gardener is struck again by the paradox. This being is both utterly still and completely alive, motionless except for the slow rise and fall of breathing, yet more vital than most things that move constantly. The dragon's stillness is not the stillness of stone or death, but the stillness of deep meditation, of perfect rest, of being so completely at peace that movement is simply unnecessary. What does the dragon dream? The gardener wonders, not for the first time. What narratives unfold in that vast consciousness? Are they stories as humans understand stories, with characters and plots and meanings? Or are they something else entirely, patterns of thought and feeling and sensation that have no equivalent in human experience? The gardener will never know. The dreams are private, internal, belonging only to the dragon. What the gardener receives is only their translation, their overflow, the excess of dream energy that cannot be contained within the dragon's sleeping mind and so manifests outward as garden, as crystal, as flower, as light. And that's enough, more than enough, to receive even this reflection, this shadow, this echo of the dragon's inner life is a privilege beyond measuring. The gardener bows to the dragon, deep, held, reverent, a gesture of gratitude. Thank you for dreaming. Thank you for letting me tend what grows from your dreams. Thank you for this garden, this impossible place, this sanctuary outside of time where magic is simply the way things are. The dragon, of course, doesn't respond, doesn't acknowledge, continues sleeping, continues breathing, continues dreaming its vast, slow dreams that will eventually become more flowers, more crystals, more wonders yet unimagined. The gardener straightens from the bough, takes one last long look around the garden, tries to memorize it, knowing that memory is futile, that no memory could capture the full reality of this place, that photographs wouldn't work here even if cameras were allowed, that words fall short and always will. The garden exists in experience, not in recording. It can only be known by being here, by being present, by witnessing directly. But the attempt to remember feels important anyway. The gardener's eyes trace the contours of the landscape, the standing stones at the boundary, the dragon at the center, the scattering of flowers and crystals and strange growths in between. The colors, so many colors, more than normal light should allow, colors that only exist because magic makes them possible. The quality of the air warm, slightly thick, charged with an electricity that's not quite electrical. The sounds, the faint chiming of grass, the subtle hum of crystals, the nearly inaudible breathing of the dragon. The scents, flower sweet and earth dark and something indefinable that might be the smell of magic itself. All of it together creates a gestalt, a unified experience that's more than the sum of its parts. The garden is not just a collection of beautiful things but a living whole, an ecosystem of magic and dream, of patience and growth, of time moving in its own way toward its own ends. And it will be here when the gardener returns. Will be the same and will be different, unchanged in its fundamental nature but transformed in its details. New flowers will have bloomed, old ones will have faded, crystals will have grown. The dragon's dreams will have shifted through their mysterious cycles, creating new expressions, new beauties, new impossibilities made manifest. The gardener will return. There's no question of that. The garden pulls, calls, creates a gentle insistence that cannot be long resisted. Whether it's tomorrow or next week or next month, time outside the garden moves differently, creates different urgencies. The gardener will climb the path again, will pass through the standing stones again, will enter this place that exists nowhere and everywhere, that is both utterly real and utterly impossible. But for now, it's time to leave. The gardener can feel it, not a physical sensation but an intuitive knowing. The visit has reached its natural completion. Everything that needed to be seen has been seen, tended has been tended, witnessed has been witnessed. To stay longer would be to overstay, to linger past the point of rightness. The gardener walks slowly toward the garden's edge, toward the standing stones that mark the boundary. Each step is a small goodbye. Goodbye to the moss carpet, goodbye to the crystal grove, goodbye to the pool with its star-scattered bottom, goodbye to the flowers that glow and chime and emit sense of impossible sweetness. At the standing stones, the gardener pauses, turns back for one final look. The dragon sleeps in the center, vast and peaceful, its silver-green scales catching the soft light. The garden surrounds it, a living mandala of growth and magic, every element in its right place, every feature contributing to the perfect whole. The silver-blue flower glows softly. The spring-green flower sways in its gentle dance. Crystals sparkle. The continuous blooming tree dissolves light upward. The moss glows blue. Everything is as it should be, perfect, complete, whole. The gardener bows one last time, to the garden, to the dragon, to the magic that makes all of this possible, to whatever force or intelligence or accident of fate created this place and allows the gardener to tend it. Then the gardener turns and passes between the standing stones, feels the subtle shift as the boundary is crossed, the gentle transition from the garden's impossible physics back to the more ordinary laws of the world beyond. The path down the mountain is the same path that was climbed earlier, whenever earlier was. The angled pines still grow at their impossible angles, roots gripping stone, branches reaching toward something unseen. The smooth stones of the path are still warm underfoot, still worn by countless passages. The gardener descends slowly, in no rush. The path is not difficult, but it requires attention, requires presence. Easy to lose one's footing if the mind wanders, if attention drifts. As the gardener walks, the mountain's warmth gradually fades. The air cools slightly, becomes more ordinary. The quality of light changes, becomes more normal, less charged. The boundary between garden and world is not sharp. It's a gradual transition, a slow return to ordinary physics, ordinary time, ordinary ways of being. At the base of the mountain, where the path meets the wider world, the gardener pauses and looks back up. The peak is obscured by mist, it always is from below. The garden is invisible from here, hidden by distance and mist and perhaps by magic, protected from casual discovery. Only those who know the way, who make the climb, who pass through the standing stones, can find it. The gardener carries no physical souvenirs from the garden. Nothing can be taken from that place, and nothing should be. But the gardener carries the experience, carries the memory of beauty witnessed, of magic observed, of time spent in the presence of something vast and ancient and peaceful. And that's enough. That's everything. The gardener turns from the mountain and walks back toward the ordinary world, toward the life that continues there, toward whatever tasks and concerns exist outside the timeless space of the dragon's garden. But part of awareness remains behind, remains always in the garden, walks always between the standing stones, kneels always beside new growths, watches always the slow opening of impossible flowers, breathes always in rhythm with the dragon. The garden is there, has always been there, will always be there, growing in its patient way, dreaming its dragon dreams into visible form, waiting with infinite patience for the gardener's return. And the gardener will return, when the pull becomes strong enough, when the time feels right, when the ordinary world's urgencies fade enough to allow the climb. Will return to tend and witness, to observe the slow unfolding, to participate in magic that asks nothing but attention and care. Will return to the place where time moves differently, where beauty grows from dreams, where a dragon sleeps and the whole world arranges itself in response. Will return home. The mountain remains where it has always been, outside of time, outside of maps, holding its secrets. The dragon sleeps and will sleep, and the dreams continue their slow cycles, one flowing into another like water into water. The garden grows and changes, never the same from one visit to the next, yet always fundamentally itself. Flowers bloom and fade, crystals form and dissolve. New things emerge from the soil, touched by dragon breath, infused with magic that asks nothing but to exist, to be beautiful, to grow in its own time. And the gardener will return, when the time feels right, when there's space for it, when the pull toward the mountain becomes too strong to ignore. Will climb the path between the angled pines, pass through the standing stones, enter the garden that exists outside of hurry, outside of urgency, in that eternal present where magic is simply the way things are. This is the way of tending, not to control or possess, but to witness, to be present for the slow unfolding, to acknowledge that some things grow best when simply allowed to grow, watched over with gentle attention, tended with the lightest of touches. The dragon dreams, and the garden translates those dreams into form, and the gardener witnesses, and this is enough. This is everything. In the quiet, in the patience, in the soft glow of magic that needs no explanation, here, there is peace. Here, there is rest. Here, there is the gentle unfolding of time that has no end. Sleep well, dragon. Dream well. Your garden grows, and all is well, and will be well, and has always been well. All is well.